Okay. Hey everybody. Real quick, can we do intros even though I think we all know each other at this point? But Shahane, nice to see you all again. May I start with you, Mike?
Bob, Brian,
Leah, Becca, Allison,
Rick, or
Megan, Randy.
Thank you. Looping you in. Okay, thanks y'all. Thank you for remembering me. Do you guys want chairs or are you comfortable?
I'm good. I'll
You're
get
good?
one if I want one.
Okay. Okay. Lovely. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about marbling clay, and I would like to first start by showcasing what that kind of can mean or what that does mean. And then I'm going to talk about how you can do that just on the table by hand and how you can do that on the wheel and how those two things may differ and what you'll need to consider for either with giving minor demos for both. Does that feel okay? Does anyone have, I'm hoping to cover them anyways, but just so that I focus on any specific questions, but does anyone have any specific questions or they're like, I've been trying to get this thing understood or anything like that? Cool. Okay. I just want to make sure. Good. Okay. Sorry.
No, you're good. Just pretend that.
Okay. So I brought over a couple of things that I have marbled in the past as hopes of demo. So let's start with color of clay as the first consideration. If you want this to be super subtle and something that you zoom in on and have to see, or something that gently grabs your eye, you can use two clay bodies that are relatively similar in coloration. If you are using multiple, then you need to consider what you want the marbling to look like and which colors you want to be in the forefront and what to highlight. So these two vases, I'm going to talk about this in a second, but these two vases here I attached together, and then you see the blowout in the back, which is why I haven't finished it because it's broken anyway. But it's a great example of marbling. So the top has been marbled extra, and that's why, and I'll demo this as well, but just to give you a hint and an idea. So all of these different clays have been wedged on top of themselves more and centered together a little bit more so that the striations are closer together and you almost start to see blending into a new color altogether where it's been wedged and worked extra. So to clarify what colors are going on in these, I've used black, red, and white because I wanted as much contrast as possible. Thank you. And then same thing down here, same combination, except I've tried to work them as little as possible to get bigger chunks of striation and to like see them a little bit more. Is that, so far, is it making sense? And again, I'll demo how to do that, but all things to consider. So far, what clay you're using, how much do you want the whole piece to be first? So like if you're gonna throw a 5-pound monster, then lovely. How many pounds of each clay are you gonna use? Are you gonna do 2.5 and 2.5? Are you gonna do 3, 2, 1? You know, like what's your vibe? I realize those were different numbers, but so just considering that. Is the camera angle okay? Yay. Now also one thing to consider is when you're building this, you are going to lose all of that marbling. Like when you're wedging, when you're throwing, it's going to be covered in slip. You're not going to see it and you're going to think you screwed up. You didn't. And that is part of the process. And when you are hand building with it, you're gonna smudge out a lot of those details, and then you're gonna be like, oh no, what did I do? I connected and I scored and slipped, and now it looks like because I did all these other things, yada yada yada. You cannot marble and avoid trimming. So just so you are aware of that. Now, if you hate trimming, we are going to need to take a lot of meditative breaths before starting this process, because trimming is what actually reveals everything. Otherwise, you'll be looking at a very messy, and maybe that's what you want. But you'll be looking at something very messy. So far, speech kind of it all checks out. Okay. Where I'm going with this, sorry, this is over here for now. So now we get to talk about the fun stuff that you can do with extra, being extra. Upside down, kind of show the bottoms, because the bottoms are so pretty. Okay. So here we have a couple of different funky options for marbling. This is buff, red, and black mixed together. And I wanted these color schemes because they're what I saw when we went to Utah. So I really wanted to capture that moment. It took about this took 5 pieces of different ratio testing in order to get to this look. So I was playing with how much buff I wanted. I was playing with how much red I wanted versus how much black. Which one gave me the aesthetic and how much of each I needed. And that took just testing. And then this is where the mad scientist stuff comes into place. Of like, okay, maybe it's 2 pounds of the red and then equal parts white and black. And then maybe that needs to be adjusted to 1.5 pounds, you know, and like et cetera, but don't be afraid to test a few pieces and have them literally be sacrificed. Like if they don't look good and you don't like it, if you're like, oh, it's too much of this, cool. Maybe it could live on as something else, but you just don't keep doing that ratio moving forward, and be okay with having some pieces like that. And it might mean that you're doing 1 pound tiny versions, not like a pound is tiny, but you might be doing miniature versions of what you actually want, like this size, and then getting to the one that you actually want, and you just up that scale and ratio. Yeah. So now, how did I get these funky colors and what's going on here? Colored clay, which is a workshop that I'm planning probably at the end of the summer, because I need to get all the minerals and all the fun stuff for it. But really all the plaster for it. But colored clay you can mix up and then use that in your spiraling as well. You can also purchase colored porcelain, but I recommend making it yourself instead of buying something so expensive. Anywho, you can use any type of clay, even colored clay, in creating your marble effects. But the real reason I brought these over is to give you an idea. So the way that I marbled and made these is essentially as if I worked 2 different types of them together. It's the colored clay and then the black. And then you can see on the spiral here, so all of the colored clays I spiraled together first. And then I worked that into the black. So it's not like red here, purple here, blue here, et cetera, and you could do that, but I opted to swirl them all together so that it looked a little bit more like blast of color, if you will. Again, this is part of the having fun process, but just trying to showcase the different ways you can do that. And this one was blue, yellow, and purple swirled together and then mixed into the black. But I went like extra heavy on the colorant on this mug, and it was a little bit more than I originally wanted because I wanted to see more black. And I was cool with that, but yeah, then altered my ratio a little bit here. And then some. Okay, demo-wise, like the examples of what marbling is and just different ideas on ways that you can utilize it. So far checks out. Okay. This side. Y'all are welcome to come up and like do these pieces if you want to. Okay. So first we're going to talk about how you would do this by hand. It is a little bit of a tedious process, but so is all things pottery. So if you're on a good podcast or something you've seen before, have it in the background and just enjoy. You actually don't need to cut big chunks when you're working with slab or foil. Slivers are okay. It's one of the only times that I'll say that. And while I start with measuring, I wanted to also explain this tool that we have. It's called a shrink ruler. Has anyone seen these before? One, two. Has anyone not seen these before? Okay, a couple. So I will explain how this works. So this is hiding with the other rulers in the top drawer here, top left, and all other, I guess, measuring objects. And then it's color coded on the front and back with different percentages of clay shrinkage. So you have red with 6%, purple with 10% right up here. And then if you flip to the back, you've got 12% being blue, and then 14% being green. And essentially, this will let you know how much your piece is going to shrink, so you don't have to calculate on your own. It does all of the measurements and the calculations for you. It's invaluable with saving time, though, you know, your math teacher will probably be like, you could do it on your own. It's fine. So basically, it'll let you know how much this is going to shrink. So this is roughly 6 inches across after it's going to dry and come out of the glaze kiln. But that means that it's actually closer to 7 inches across with a ruler, which kind of checks out. I was rough, doing rough measurements here, but that's how these work. So if you're trying to figure out how small your piece is going to be by the time it comes out of the glaze, shrink ruler. Does that make sense? Okay, I have this here just as general guidance. Next thing we're going to do is start flattening out our clays, measuring rolling pin. So the color caps at the end dictate how thin or thick your piece is. So you just want to make sure that you're matching the color and also getting the height that you want out of this. Otherwise, if you're at like orange and green, it's not going to be even. And if you did orange and you're like, oh no, it's too thin, you have to rework the whole thing. So make sure you're at a thickness that you want. Yay. It's far too quiet. And then I'm gonna flip this way. It's gonna go lengthwise in the other direction, so I get something that's a little bit more even. It's always good to flip. Just make sure you're not digging your fingers in too dramatically. And I always like to roll onto my wrists, but that's up to you. Yay! Oh my God. Yay! So this part is a little tedious when you're hand building because you're going to have to do the same thing to all of the clays that you're trying to layer. And then yes, ma'am. Sorry. No, you're fine. I didn't even explain that actually. I just didn't think I needed to because I was using a small amount of clay. I really only use the slab roller if it's something that I can't roll by hand. Why go through using the big ass machine? Full story.
Same thing. Yeah, I was like, same, yeah.
But no, that's a good question. And then to save time, because I want to make all of my white pieces the same like length and thickness, so I'm going to just use the thickness of the ruler so that I don't have to have another measuring system and like actually sit here and do that, because I don't want to take up too much of your actual breath and time. And I'll do 3 white pieces and probably 3 of the others. Maybe just see how it turns out. Need intermission music. Da, da, da. Karaoke. That has come up in suggestion a couple times now. So we might have to do studio karaoke soon. A few people talked about it. Sounds traumatizing to me. 5, good enough. That sounds good. And then I'm reworking the fresh clay as quickly as possible so that it stays fresh, and then you don't have to worry about it drying out, and you can always re-roll it if you want. I'm not stressing these cracks or anything else until now. Like once I'm done cutting it up and all of that. Taking one finger, dipping it in water, and gently moving back and forth to rub out those cracks, or if you want to save time, you can spritz the whole thing real quick and then use a metal rib to gently pet over the surface. Think of this like a feral cat. You don't want to be too rough. You just want to give it a little touch. And I'm not worried about the those lines blending in on themselves because I've done a full cut anyway, and they'll still feel apart. Flip to the other side. And then do the same thing. Then while these dry, you can go and roll out your next pieces. If it costs more, it's fine. We're excited. So what we're learning right now is technically narrow-foaming, Japanese technique. It's beautiful. Am I also breaking my rule on white clay and red clay? Yes, but we're working on the dark clay table, so screw it, I can clean it all up. The white clay table would stain horribly, so here we are. I might have to use the whole thing, that's fine. Smushed her block easily. I talk too much. Travesty. Scraps. Only two. is this thinner? Whatever. We'll play with it. Let's use buff because I think that this will be fun. Can everyone still see okay? Even though I'm literally just rolling out slabs and I realize this is like the most boring thing ever. Always make sure your fingers are out of the way. Oh. If I did want this to be ridiculously accurate, I could have also done all of these in the slab roller and I would have gotten bigger chunks that I could have used to cut up more from, but this is already a tedious enough process, so I didn't want to take too much time for a demo. Alright, cool. Now the fun stuff. Alright, so the tedious part is over. Maybe. That's the tedious part for me. Someone else might feel the opposite. But now the fun part is connecting these together. Once you've connected them together, you can have fun on what you do with them from there, and I'll show you what I mean by that. But this part is so important and so critical. You're gonna definitely want to use a serrated rib for this, because if you use the needle tool, you're gonna get a lot more of a mess, and you're not gonna get a clean beveled edge the way that you would with the serrated rib. So I'm gonna go ahead and hold my serrated rib at an angle already, so that I'm cutting right in between that 90-degree angle on the slab. Does that make sense? So then I'm gonna start and I'm gonna drag right towards myself. I'm figuring out which angle works better, so it's easier for me to cut down here. So that's how I'm gonna hold it. Holding the slab still with my finger. I'm gonna do that twice. Can everyone kind of see that beveled edge? Okay. And now I'm gonna do the same on the back of this guy. So the side that's gonna technically connect is what I beveled. And I'm gonna push, well, I should be using water, but it's so floppy already, honestly. Drain as much of the water out as you can and gently pat some liquid in between. Just a dainty little tap, nothing too crazy. This is already super fresh clay and you don't want to overhydrate it so that it sticks to the table. Line it up and gently push and compress down so that they homogenize as one. Score and slip with a bevel. And then now you can see they're pretty much blended well together, and I have a little bit of room up here, but I can either go over it with this again, or I can attach a couple more and then do that all in one. You feel like, but I wanted to see more of this or more of that. We're gonna wait a second. That's where the trimming comes into place, because there is always a little bit of this. And then this time I'll do this. And there's going to be natural staining of the different clay bodies as you go. Again, the cleanup is kind of inevitable. I'll speed through this part a little faster now to take up less time, but you would take as much time as you wanted and needed. And then as I go, I make sure that I keep wanting to call it a coil, but it's a slab. I keep wanting to make sure my bacon slices are layered evenly and pushed in so that it's not like snaking around. Scratch. Flip. Scratch at the bottom. That's one more cup. The water creates slip when those two pieces of clay combine together. Because it's super fresh, that's all you really need. Again, my hand's holding the clay steady so that it doesn't slide away this way and like peel off to the edge like that. Because once you apply pressure, it's like, oh, okay, great, we're sliding off. But no, actually, we're condensing down, but it doesn't want to do that naturally. Because why would pottery be friendly? That's not in her nature. Pretend I added water like a good potter. I'm a good ceramicist, I swear. And I keep flipping it towards me so that I'm scraping the bottom side that attaches, because it'll be top, bottom, so that you get two 45-degree angles meeting to create 90 instead of kind of flying away from each other. So now those two line up instead of having the scratch marks be on top. I'm going to give a little swipe towards myself to get rid of my fingerprints. Scraping. You can kind of see how this tool makes life so much faster. Ah! The red clay not being the same thickness is really throwing me off. But it's going to turn into something fun, I'm sure. Almost done. Thank you for your patience. And again, we're gonna smooth out all of the roughness. Using my palm instead of my finger so that I don't actually leave intense fingerprints. And compress. So even when you're working and you've done this forever, stay present, see what works, and then adjust as you go. And then I keep cleaning up my crumbs as best as possible so that I don't work it back into the clay and then leave those little specks. You want those specks, keep all of this, crush it up, and then distribute even specks. Do it on purpose. Take the mistakes and make them something that's actually super fun. But intention is usually very obvious. Usually. Unless your intention is to not be obvious. In which case, good. Alright, with this, it'll still fit. Alright, so now I'm going to give this one roll all the way across. I'm actually going to drop down to yellow. Do you need water, honey? No comment. Like there's too many people, I'm not talking. Alright. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I'm freaked out. Wasn't so bad. I'm going to drop down to orange now. And this is as skinny as I'm daring to get. Pretty good. And then now I'm going to go through and combine these slabs a little better with the serrated rib. So I'm pushing the clays into each other. And if you're like, but I don't want that texture. Me either. We're going to work through that together. But I'm using this and I'm basically swiping at a 45-degree angle with the rib. And I'm petting towards myself just along that compression line. Whee! Little bump there, that's fine. I'm being hasty, and so this is getting slightly uneven in parts, but if you take your time, the neater it will. But then we're going to take the flat end of our serrated rib and blend away those markings. Some of it gets scraped off. I'm cleaning my metal rib as I go. And then you get rid of those textures and homogenize your clay all together. So it would be a good time for an overall spritz to make sure you really get rid of all unwanted markings. Again, I do realize that there is some, this is actually really cool. We'll work with that. I do realize that there are some things that are not going away. It's because it's, again, the red clay, I didn't get it as even as I wanted, but that's alright. So now this is all set. We're going to very gently, again, I'm trying to pick up as much of the whole thing at once as possible because I don't want to rip these pieces of clay apart. It is very fragile and it will want to separate at this point. So we have to be very careful when we're picking up and working. So we're going to do the same thing to this side. Again, I do fully realize this is tedious work and I am trying to go as fast as I can, so I appreciate y'all. But I'm going to compress all sides again. I'm using the sharp edge first to really scrape the clays together, and I'm going along the connection points for each slab of clay. This is feeling a lot better on this side. When we're done and it's settled down a little bit, we can decide which side we want to be the outside versus inside, and you can play with that. Clean off your metal ribs so that you don't have ridiculous little other pieces trying to go in when you're cleaning, because that would be frustrating. And again, you would be taking your time, perhaps using silicone. I do like metal because it scrapes the top layer almost as if you were trimming. And so it gives kind of like a cleaner look as you work. But it can sometimes leave uneven surface if you rush or if you're not paying attention to the pressure. So I'd say there is a warning there. Be a wee bit cautious. And you can blend out with your fingers parts that are not being caught. Alright. So far everyone doing alright? Okay, cool. I'm going to do one thing, clean this up a little, and then we're going to leave it in front of a fan while I talk about wedging for the wheel. So I'm going to kind of hit you with as much as possible without taking too much of your time. So cleaning up the edge here. Okay, I thought someone had a question. I'm going to save this and potentially use it later, but already starting to give you an idea of the blend together. Same thing, keeping as much of this as we can. Fingers out of the way so that you don't get finger bumps. Again, looking pretty cool. Kind of digging it. Those look like dragon scales. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll do something with that. But now, if everyone can see this part here. Oh, it's happy. That's what we're going to use. And you can create with this slab that you've just made. Or, this is the part that I'll leave you with. Just break your mind a little bit. You can start taking these slabs and making stripes out of this that you start to work with and build up and create. So we'll do 2 of these. Actually, 2 feels good. We'll do 3. 3 is a good one. We'll do 3. I'll leave a fan in front of this and we'll chill while I talk about the next part. Whee. Oh, these ones are secure. All right, cool. Come up with something fun to do. All right, so now let's say I want to marble some clay for throwing. The most important thing again is figuring out the ratio that you want. So if you're working with X amount of clay, this time I'm going to do speckled red and white. See what those specks look like marble. That might be something really interesting. Or the glaze might hate it. We'll find it. Glaze makes or breaks everything, so we never really know until we know. too wet, so I'm gonna dry it out real quick. This is my reclaim. And then we're gonna do even though I'm going to be mixing these all together, I'm still trying to keep my hands clean-ish in between the different clays. Something like that. Why not? So I really should be weighing these out in entirety, but if I cared and I wanted to reproduce these, or I wanted to at least get an idea of the ratio that I like and remember it, I would be weighing out each clay and then taking notes of this somewhere where I can track it again. I don't care, so I'm gonna go with whatever this says anyways. But if I did have a certain thing that I cared about, I would be shooting for that by measurement. And I'm using the digital scale for once because this time the ounces do matter. 13-ish if I stopped leaning over it. Approximately 13 ounces. Half pound. And 14 ounces, which doesn't make any sense. No way. Yeah, half pound. This thing is tweaking. We might need more batteries. A little under half pound. So this is 5.0, almost 6 ounces. 4 ounces. And about 13 ounces. Altogether something like roughly a little over a pound and a half, almost a pound and a half. Versus almost 2 pounds. Okay. Now I'm gonna do one piece that is wedged quite a bit and has an insane amount of layering in between them, so I'm going to cut these up a lot. And then this I'm going to leave just kind of whole, and then you're going to see 3 clay bodies just existing together. First, for these, I'm going to wedge it up into different chunks. And then you're basically going to do a baby wedge. And this is one hand doing all the work, so I'm cupping. And then the other hand is literally using fingers. So I'm pushing in, spiraling up, pushing in, spiraling up. And I'm doing just a baby wedge here to compress the clay. And I've already got some spiraling of different clays in there. Okay, just a little baby wedge. If you're like, why didn't you wedge before ripping? You could have, but then it still has those rip marks. Little baby wedges. And you can see the part of my hand. It's like doing all the work right there. And then these fingers are just helping me move it. And I just roll against the table with my hands on the outside so that it stays a little bit more ball shape. Why is that easier to do? Okay, it's easier to do with your hands away from you. I don't know why. My hands are stiffer, I suppose. I fully realize how tedious this is. But it's going to yield some really cool results. Now this is the theory and the method if you want to see a lot of striation. So if you want to see something like this top or this guy here, then you're going to want to do this. If you want to see, or like this for example, it's pretty stacked on top of itself. If you want to see these big chunky lines, you're going to want to do the next method, where you keep them all pretty much together. Now there is a method where, and I'll kind of go over this too, where you take your ball of clay, you've centered it, and then you take a trimming tool and you carve out the outside of your piece, and then you inlay the clay. I'll go over that too. The drawback to that is potential air bubbles and potentially that those two pieces of clay don't homogenize well together. The positive to it is that if you don't care what the inside looks like, then at least you're not wasting like a marble on the inside, and you pretty much just have the interior clay being like black and then the marble only being on the outside. But if you want to do clear on your piece or something like that and you don't care about trimming, etc., then go ahead, do it all over. Okay. So I'm going to kind of just stack these together, but aggressively, in hopes that they homogenize well and I don't have a lot of air bubbles. Tried to get them kind of spaced out. I messed up a little bit. That's okay. Now I could leave it like this if I wanted big spirally chunks, or I can wedge it somewhat. I'm gonna do a little bit of a wedge. I'm gonna wedge this way a couple of times, and then this way a few times. And then that's gonna get me this cool kind of funky pattern. This is one of the only times I'm gonna be like, yeah, wedge in different directions. But it helps kind of spread the clay all around in a different way. I see you. Phil's falling asleep because I'm that boring. I'm aware. The fun stuff's gonna happen shortly. So then with these, if I didn't want them to spiral too much, I'm gonna wedge the red by itself. Get this one ready because I'm gonna stack them right on top of each other. And I wanna see what that turns into. So I'm gonna do something a little different for both. Babiest of baby wedges. Keep doing this. Hi, cutie. You want to help me? Here. You're welcome, baby. I knew that piece would come in handy. All right, and now we're gonna get this guy right on top. And now, for once, maybe the once and only time, I'm not wedging. We've wedged our little pieces, that's it. That also means you're coning. Literally everyone's eyeballs are like, what? It's the only time I've ever said that. You want to what?
I don't know where to sit.
You don't know where to sit? Well, we're about to go to the wheels in a second. You want to sit at that one right there? Because that's where I'm going. Okay. And now... That's your arrow anyways. Don't like this one, but that's fine. Okay. Brief intermission. We're gonna make our way to this wheel and then we're gonna come back so that I can show you how to finish up the handle plate.
Holy. Scoop as hard as you can.
Scoop as hard as you can. You're so clever. All right, so reminder, you're probably not gonna see half of this until the very end in terms of spiraling. I'm gonna speed past centering and all of that other stuff because I know you guys at this point, so. You're gonna start by coning down to get the clay actually centered onto the wheel, and then you're gonna cone up. Now you are working with different types of clay, and they all do operate differently. So be wary, you're gonna have different feels and bumps, and different sensations are gonna be happening at the same time when you're throwing with a marbled clay. And your job is to feel through that process and start identifying, oh, was that an air bubble or was that just where the two met? Like, am I in trouble? Da da da. So you really have to be present through that experience.
Yeah, don't put your clay onto this instead of your old clay.
That's right.
Go like this.
Yep. Do you remember what the green is called?
Yep.
What's it called? A bat. Okay, so I'm gonna cone up and down maybe like twice-ish. So this could be my third time I got distracted. Thank you. And I don't want to mix it up too much because I don't want to get rid of all of the striation that's there. I still want to see some of that different clay body, and if I mix too much, then I lose that. And they all blend together into one new clay. Make sure it's as centered as possible. You're keeping your hand still, so you have to push against the clay to some extent, but half your muscle strength is used towards your own stillness. And now use slip as your opening agent instead of water. And as I go down, I'm already starting to see those different clays play together. Everyone see inside there? Mm-hmm.
So I make it something that's really cool.
Yeah, everything you make is super cool.
Yeah. But this one's
So
real.
now my inside base is probably going to be speckled. And then I've got
Bill.
that nice red wall shaping, but honestly, we don't really know until the end.
Cool. Push so that we put it on.
Very good, Felicity.
Push it back together.
Mm-hmm. Shut up.
Look.
His senior project was a hot dog. And it was red clay and white clay. And the red clay was the hot dog. He was so proud of himself. And I was so mad.
Something real.
I am a hater because everyone fell in love with it, and I'm like literally in the ceramic facility working my butt off because we're finals. I'm in the School of Art and Design. And he was over here just crushing it with a hot dog that wasn't even fired. I was like, okay. This is the most unserious degree.
I'm making the black one closer.
You're making the what? Okay.
She broke that shit.
Who?
Huh?
I didn't break it.
Yeah, you did. You broke it, one of us broke one of us.
I didn't break it.
See that? Shut up.
It wasn't fired, dude. It wasn't making it anyways.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
It's not me breaking it. You're a hater, dude.
Maybe more bigger.
Okay, so as I throw, again, I'm not using a lot of water here, and so the spiral is already pretty visible. But this is the one that we mixed together quite a bit so that you would really see the difference. Felicity, you're the best entertainment. Where were you during the boring part?
Oh.
She's like, oh.
Watch her take the tail.
Yeah, she's got the good life. It's her singing for me. All right. Now we get to clean this up and see what's actually going on with it. And the trim is going to be the more revealing part and the more exciting part, but you can always see it.
And just like else over there. You see that cake there? That's right. That's how you go. You're on top. The toes are in the drawers.
That's right. I think you were just called a cool girl, by the way, Brandy.
Oh.
You see that cougar? Pretty sure that's what she just said. Though I speak 70% toddler. I think I'm fluent, and then she says something, and I'm like, I know nothing. Okay. So now I'm gonna do the scrape with my metal rib. Ooh. Nobody don't ask me. I'm just so
What are you doing?
What am I doing? So just a quick metal rib is enough to really reveal all of that. And when I do this, oh, even the slip is pretty. When I do this, I loaded slip and water on the inside. Even though that got rid of the marbling, I was able to push up against the wall a little bit and push the clay into the metal rib. I'm just gonna clean one section at a time so that I can actually get all parts of the clay scraped and clean, which makes it easier during trim. White, red, and speckled.
Okay.
So this is the one that we mixed kind of a lot and stacked on top of each other, if you guys remember.
And I don't give up on it. So to clean it, because I need
Yeah, you can use my sponge in a second.
to get one button.
Here you go. Good job. I think I have one right here, Baba. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, and then
Don't look like this are and we water.
so now we're gonna work with this guy. Dad, can I ask you a favor?
No.
Please? Can you get me a small loop tool, like trim tool? Loop. LOOP. No. I heard what you heard. What?
I made a black one face.
Oh, thank you. It looks so good. Thank you for me. Can you put it down? Because mommy's hands are all gross. Thank you so much. Okay, so now we can take these extra bits of clay, and what I was explaining earlier was, another alternative method would be taking your chunk of clay, and usually,
Listen, wait.
honey, there's a
Leslie,
wire
no.
right in front of you.
You need to relax.
Thank you all
Sit down,
so
please.
much.
I need water.
Okay, all right. Do you want this little one?
No, I want.
Okay, you want this one. Can I give you this one? Can we compromise?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, you can play right here.
Thank you, everybody. All right, so usually this would be happening with one color clay. So let's say you chose red or white or something, right? And then you mix with another clay. But we're marbling. So we're gonna see what that does, because everything's an experiment. So I'm gonna take my round
I'm making it
loop tool,
exactly.
and I'm just gonna kind of cut all squiggly like that. So it's looking pretty cool in there already. And then I'll just mix this in here, because why not? And then we're gonna turn this into a coil. Now I do, very good job. Now I do recommend that you have your coil be thicker than the hole itself that you cut, so that you can smush extra into it, and then the leftover you can really compress and make sure that there aren't air bubbles, and you can push it as much in there as possible. And it gives you more to shave away. Here you go. Oh, nice, right on time.
Beautiful, it's good.
I need this. Thanks.
This could be
All right, again, you guys have seen me center enough times. It is weirder, and I have to compress a lot more, which means I have to apply pressure with both hands simultaneously and stay still so that I'm balancing out top and side pressure.
nice. But
I do feel the air bubbles and some wonkiness because I didn't really wedge this clay. I just slapped it on top of each other, but again, we wanted drama, so we have to deal with drama. Is that little fart? That was the air bubble. When you ignore them, they tend to pop themselves, or it'll just reveal itself as you work, and then you can pop it. So we're gonna cone up and down twice and then call it. Yay.
Mommy, you can borrow my tool if you like.
Thank you so much, honey. We'll see if I need it. I might need it.
Okay, I'll give it to you. Here, I got it right here.
Thank you so much, kiddo.
You're welcome.
Mostly working dry so that again you can kind of see the dramatic difference there, but it is harder to work with.
Black because means a lot.
There's an air bubble, and it's quite dramatic. There's one at the bottom and the top, so I'm going to use my needle tool. Now when we pop air bubbles, you're not just poking it, you are jabbing inwards and pulling your needle tool out. You are making a big gap for air to get out of. Otherwise, that one little hole probably isn't enough. And don't fret, you're just going to compress it all back on itself anyways. Ooh, I might have missed one, we'll see. Always apply extra pressure down at the base. So I'm applying pressure in with my outside fingers and out with my inside fingers. And then I come up with that even pressure in between both
Mom,
hands.
what are you making?
A cup.
Now I want to make a big, 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 big bowl.
Okay, maybe I do that with another piece of clay because this one's not gonna want to do that. I might have to cut some of this off, but that's all right.
But you can make this way.
Now the trickiest part is wanting to clean up the inside to reveal the spiral. And you can do that to some extent by dropping your metal rib from top to bottom, but be careful that you don't get to the very, very base because then too much snags and you tend to rip your piece apart. So have one bit of sacrifice. And there's 9 times out of 10, there's glaze at the very bottom inside of your piece anyways. It's probably gonna get covered up. So let's reveal the outside real quick before I cut some of it away. So where we spiraled and mixed that other piece of clay looks to be right about here when we do the actual pull, and it looks like that's where everything twists together into one cool kind of different vibe. But otherwise it would have been very big chunks of the different types of clay all mixed together. So now let's make this something that we can live with. There's this thin spot right here and an air bubble up here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and sacrifice a little bit. I can leave this and dry this out, and this can be the handle. So it doesn't always have to be a waste. If you have to cut some of the top off, make it worth it. Press the lip. That's a really great question. I can cut this here and here, and then I have two handles. I have a lot of white and speckled spiral together, with red being mostly at the base. Then I have this nice red contrast on the inside. And so I'm kind of happy with the bold, even though I had to sacrifice and it didn't turn out exactly the way that height-wise and everything else that I wanted, I now can turn that handle into something fun if I wanted to. That still kind of matches the aesthetic and color scheme. And then trimming is going to give you the biggest reveal of this guy. Questions, comments, or concerns on anything I did? Is there anything I can clarify? Cool. Okay, so now I'm going to rinse my hands off real quick and then show you what you can do with the slab, and then I'll take any questions or talk out anything else or demo anything. I wanted actually a little bit more texture out of this, but I had to do what I had to do to make sure I still had a piece. Long-winded, but did that answer that question?
Yeah.
And then I did white slip as the base here, around the mountain texture and up. And then once the white slip had dried, I did, and after the white slip was applied, while it was still kind of wet, I added other colored slips all the way around, and then just took my time painting. But you get easier blending with underglaze, and it's a little bit more flat color scheme with the slip. So this looks a little bit more like acrylic paint versus watercolor.
Great, it looks just like Utah, like you nailed it, it's very cool.
Took a lot of pieces that didn't look good to get to this one, or like different parts of the U.S. Like it just didn't look like what I was shooting
Well, you
for.
got
But
there.
fine with it. It took a while. So anything comparing our throne lumpies. Lots of mixing, lots of layering, smaller pieces combined and stacked and wedged and thrown, versus left relatively whole and then added that little bit after. Okay, cool. I need a piece of plastic, and then we'll talk about the rest. Using the same piece of plastic, and it's making me laugh. Every time I put it back, I keep getting it. All right, so in general with hand building, I hate using Pam cooking spray. I hate using cornstarch and any of the other stuff because it cakes your tubes and it's annoying to have to clean up after, whereas a thin piece of plastic is my preferred because it doesn't really leave that much texture and you can literally just peel it all right off. So now we have our beautiful pieces of clay, which we love so much. And now just to kind of showcase the different things that you can do, with the clay. I'm not used to someone helping me clean, I'm just lost. That was not enough. And then, you know, if I wanted to keep whatever. Maybe I do something like this. Who knows? Just having fun. But you can then take your square and break it back up and then continue to have a fun pattern and just do stuff like that if you wanted to. I'm gonna have to trim this up and do crazy stuff to it anyways, so let's have fun, shall we? Please pretend that I've combined these the proper way with water. I'm just gonna do a little extra trimming on it and hope that it looks good. Where's Celeste when you need her? Back to Pokemon. She knew what was good. And then score to combine these. Again, that's going to give slightly different pattern. I'm kind of digging it though. And then if I wanted to combine. I feel bad. It's the boring part. And again, the metal rib. I'm going both ways, towards me and away from me, to help blend all the trays together. Every time. Sorry guys. Appreciate your patience. I think button looks good. Put this one. Three, flip, looking pretty cool. We're almost getting chessboard. And then to be honest, you could literally do this to create your own chessboard. Just make sure you're using 2 colors of clay instead of 3. So I guess you could do that. Who's to say? Maybe you make your own game.
Is that what you were planning to do when you were going to have the Game Boards workshop?
It's one of the things you could do. Yeah, I was planning on, long story short, yes. So I think I'm going to do that again at some point. So, and now folding over onto my form, though to be honest I probably should have tore the tray. We'll see. I think this will look better. You really shouldn't do this. You should decide beforehand. But if you're indecisive like me, there's still hope. to form this literally around our form. Ba-dum-ps. Use the needle tool to cut anywhere that's too long. Though I'm not crazy worried about the shape at this point because we're gonna do a little bit more touch-ups once it's leather hard. But you do wanna at least get these ridiculous hang-offs here cut off sooner than later. I'd be using a ruler if I actually, had high hopes. So just for demo's sake. We love her. And then now is when you're going to use the round or soft side of your metal rib and start to compress all of those extra lines on themselves and really make sure your clay is worked through together. Again, you're going to be doing some basic hand trimming, and instead of normally, like when you're on the wheel, you're basically going to be shaving gentle patterns. Phil, your favorite trim tool. You're going to wait until this piece gets leather hard. You're going to pop it off of the mold that you have, and then you're going to shave any uneven bits with your Sureform. So instead of using a sponge or cutting with the knife, a lot of the times when people cut with the knife, it's uneven. And so you can do that to some extent, but if you really want to work it down, it's far too wet for me to do this, but let's pretend that I let this dry for a week and we love it and it's leather hard. Then you can take this and gently brush on top, and then you can kind of see already I've shaved it down even, and I've revealed that pretty texture and the spiraling and the marbling that we wanted without getting rid of it the way a sponge would. So letting it get leather hard and then doing this. And if you're like, but I don't like the scrapey look and I don't like the way that this leaves a texture behind, once you're done, you can follow through with the metal rib and scrape one more time, and then that levels everything out for you so that you do not have the Sureform's texture. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And then you'd be doing similar thing on the inside, though I'm not sure that you'd really be needing the Sureform for the inside. It does something, but it kind of like combines all of that. I don't know that you really need it on the inside. It's really for the places that are uneven and bumpy, like here, for example. I could have taken time to clean that up more, but neither here nor there. Then you're going to use that metal rib and really clean this up. Now, if this was leather hard, these pieces would not be blending together as much as they are, but because it's still soft clay, it's like, oh, let me mush this way and that, and it's creating all of these variations. So if it's pulling too much and getting dirty when you're trying to do that, instead of homogenizing together, it's still kind of wet. And again, once it's leather hard, you're going to be taking a super sharp rib, whatever that means. These tend to be super sharp, which is why I'm leaning towards this. But another option is also like these guys, the rounded edge of this, which is how I actually did a lot of these when I first started. But you can take this guy and then gently just scraping over the top. I can't really lift this up, but if you guys want to get a good aerial view, you're welcome to stand up or get closer. But can everyone see this patch of white right here that I started shaving down? So if you see where all of these pull lines are, using this sharp edge tool this line here, even when it's wet, I'm able to really reveal and show those sharp edges while getting it nice and clean. And again, it does take a little bit of time, but you can get these lines, you can get these trim marks as fine as you want. You can use clay that's like a centimeter thick and really get some interesting layering and stacking and patterns happening if you wanted to. But yeah, you can have a lot of fun with this method. Narachromy in Japanese is the hand building technique that we talked about, and then honestly I've just called this spiral throwing, or like marble clay or marble throwing. So I think, again, it's just going to take forever for this piece to get like super dry, but all I am going to do is shave up the edges once it does stiffen up enough. And even when it's wet, again, it's doing a little something here. But I am going to combine and blend these together a little well so that it's not too sharp, and when it's dry I'm going to go through and carve away and reveal the texture that I like inside and outside. I'm going to take the time to do that. So a little annoying, but it gets a very unique, interesting pattern that you wouldn't be able to get otherwise. Other than like painting, but again, it's not going to be the same. I would recommend a celadon glaze, or a glaze that has a lot of variation between clay bodies, or something that can really showcase what you've done, or a clear. You can go super simple with it, but you don't want to do all of that work and then end up with nothing at the end because you covered it all up. Or maybe you do, but I imagine you wouldn't. So I would say helpful tip would be celadons, clears, or something with lots of variation between the different clays. Okay, questions, comments, concerns, anything I can clarify, anything that you're like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about at this point, or anything like that. Yay! Thank you so much, everybody. I know that was a lot of talking. Thank you for bearing with me. But yeah, I'm excited. If you guys try this, please let me know, because I would love to see it. It's fine. Awesome. I'm gonna clean this up. I'm gonna just kind of like finish making this something that I can walk away from. But if anybody needs me or wants me to go over anything, I'm gonna be hanging out here for a little while. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. We
Yeah,
appreciate
of course.
it.
Huh?
We appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. I